It all started at the annual town picnic, a glorious spread of culinary delights, enough to make even the most disciplined gourmand weak at the knees. There were mountains of barbecued ribs, glistening with a smoky glaze, platters piled high with macaroni and cheese, its cheesy goodness stretching to the edges of the dish. A chocolate fountain cascaded rich, dark chocolate, tempting anyone within sight. This wasn't just a picnic. It was a feast for the senses, a cornucopia of delectable treats designed to bring the community together. But for Karen, it was something else entirely, a battlefield. Her eyes, usually narrowed in suspicion, were wide with avarice, scanning the bounty like a hawk surveying its prey. She was ready to unleash her inner gourmand, but not in a sharing, community-minded way. Oh no, Karen had a different plan. The first wave of her attack was subtle. A casual stroll, a seemingly innocent survey of the terrain, but her intentions were clear to those watching. She expertly navigated the crowd, her elbows subtly clearing a path, a silent declaration of her dominance. She filled her plate with an astonishing amount of food, seemingly oblivious to the murmurs of disapproval rising around her. The pile threatened to topple, a Jenga tower of culinary conquest, a testament to her insatiable appetite. She even went back for seconds, thirds even. But still, a hunger gnawed within her, a hunger that wouldn't be satiated by mere plates. The feast was hers for the taking, and she was determined to prove it. Then she saw it. The pièce de résistance. A watermelon of epic proportions, a juicy orb of summer perfection, sitting innocently on a table awaiting its fate. It was clearly meant for sharing, designated for a watermelon eating contest later in the day. But that didn't matter to Karen. To her, it represented the ultimate prize, the pinnacle of her greedy ambitions. The idea of sharing something so magnificent seemed absurd, a betrayal of her deeply ingrained sense of entitlement. A slow, calculating smile stretched across her face. It was on. She moved with surprising speed, the agility of a seasoned thief. While others were casually enjoying the delightful spread, Karen was engaged in a full-scale culinary heist. Her plate was now overflowing, a chaotic landscape of half-eaten sandwiches, wilted salads, and strategically placed desserts, all precariously balancing on the edge of collapse. But still she piled on more, scooping up mountains of potato salad and grabbing fistfuls of cookies, oblivious to the growing unease around her. It was clear she planned on leaving no morsel behind. The other picnic-goers, initially amused by Karen's audacious appetite, began to feel a growing sense of resentment. Their own plates, once full of promise, were now looking rather meager in comparison. The murmurs turned to outright grumbling. Some even dared to glare, their eyes expressing a mix of disbelief and simmering anger. But Karen remained unmoved, her focus solely on accumulating more and more food, as if driven by some primal, insatiable urge. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. The joyous atmosphere had completely evaporated, replaced by a palpable sense of outrage. It had stopped being about enjoying a delightful afternoon and had become a silent standoff, a tense battle of wills centered around a mountain of food. The once cheerful picnic ground now bore the weight of unspoken accusations, a battlefield of spilled lemonade and abandoned plates. The once harmonious group was split, a silent divide between those who thought the situation ridiculous and those who were downright angry. The climax arrived in the form of a single, almost comical act. As Karen attempted to discreetly stash an entire pie under her coat, a collective gasp swept through the crowd. This was the final straw. The audacity, the sheer brazenness of it, was too much to bear. People were now openly expressing their disgust, their words sharp and cutting, a stark contrast to the earlier convivial atmosphere. The tables had turned. Her escape attempt was clumsy and undignified. She stumbled, burdened by her ill-gotten gains, a walking, talking testament to greed and bad manners. The pie peeked out from her coat, a telltale sign of her epic food grab. The murmurs turned into a chorus of disgruntled voices, a symphony of disapproval. The once celebratory atmosphere was now a chaotic mess of accusations and frustrated sighs. Karen's reign of culinary terror was over. Later, sitting alone on a park bench, Karen nibbled on a single lonely grape. The massive quantities of food she had amassed were gone, a testament to her impulsive gluttony. The initial thrill had faded, replaced by a profound sense of emptiness and regret. The memory of the disgusted faces lingered, a harsh reminder of her actions. The picnic, once a symbol of community and joy, now represented a shameful episode in her life. A stark reminder of how unchecked greed can sour even the sweetest of occasions. The picnic, finally free from Karen's shadow, continued. The others had resumed their jovial interaction, sharing food and laughter, their camaraderie restored. The lesson was clear. Community and sharing are far more satisfying than selfish accumulation. Karen, left to her own devices, learned a hard lesson that day, a lesson far more valuable than any amount of food. She finally understood the true meaning of sharing, of community, of a perfectly balanced plate, not of piled-high greed. The ultimate price of her greedy grab was more than just a full stomach. It was a heavy price of social ostracism and a lingering feeling of deep regret.